Could we say who I am? Hello. Welcome to my live. I'm here today to answer any questions you've got about gardening, that is. So anything at all, your lawn's crook, there's grubs in your apricot, whatever it is, ask me and we'll see what we can do to help, okay? And basically I've had 60 odd years of experience both gardening and as a gardener and as a nurseryman and horticulturalist. So I'm quite experienced and I can help you.
Exactly. So just know that whatever questions you have, you're getting incredible advice from Chris. We already have a question here from Peter asking if now is the time to repot orchids.
Yeah, now's a great time to be repotting them, and you could. I used to make my own orchid mix. I used to use a lot of charcoal, and you need sort of nice chunky stuff in there. I used to use charcoal and a bit of pine bark in there, and you can make your own orchid mix, or you can buy your orchid mix down at Bunnings. They sell quite good orchid mixes. So make up your own with charcoal and some coarse pine bark, and then just add some ordinary potting mix to it, and you're fine.
Perfect. And we also got a question here from Aaron. So they're saying, hi, I am a landscape designer from Canberra and I have a customer that wants flowering gums. They don't really realise we can't grow them here. How does eucalyptus leucoxylin scarlet gum tree handle the frost?
Fine. I haven't actually seen them in Canberra, but I've seen them in quite a few places along the Murray where it does get quite frosty, and they're very good.
Amazing. Well, it seems like that's a good option then for you, Aaron. We have a question here from Mile saying, my lawn is turning yellow even though I water it well. How do I get it to stay green?
Well, there's two possible. Some of your there are some grasses that no matter what you do, they turn yellow in the winter. And to fight it is pointless. But what you can do with those ones that turn yellow in the winter, if you were to feed them as you're heading into winter where they're still growing, there's a couple of things you can do to sort of fortify your grass. And first of all, I think most people cut their grass too short because they get the mower down low because they think if I mow it real hard this time, I won't have to mow it for another couple of weeks. But if you want your lawn to look great, you've got to mow it up a little bit. So if you were to, as you go in the middle of autumn, if you were to put a good dose of fertilizer on your lawn, get it well watered, and lift your mower up a bit, it'll yellow later if it's the type of grass that yellows. But if it's just normal lawn and it's yellowing because it's hungry, then fertilizer and if you go into Bunnings or into anyone with good ranges of fertilizers, they have liquid fertilizers that you plug on the end of your hose and you can spray on it. And the beauty of those liquid fertilizers is when you put a solid fertilizer on your lawn, the problem with that is that for that solid fertilizer to go into the soil, then get sucked up by the roots and end up in the grass, up in the tips of the grass, actually takes weeks. It takes weeks and weeks. So right now, if your lawn's on the skids and turning yellow and you want to green it up, and it's not one of those lawns that have to turn yellow in the winter, a foliar feed, which that's a liquid fertilizer. Liquid fertilizer, you can use them on lawns, you can use them on all different things, but they do make specific lawn fertilizers. The great thing about it is that what you do is you get up early in the morning and you spray it on when the evaporation rate is very low, and while and liquid fertilizer only works while the droplets are on the leaves. So if you go out on a warm, windy day and you spray and it dries in 15 seconds, the plant only gets the feed on the liquid fertilizer for 15 seconds. But if you go, when I was foliar feeding my nursery, I would go out. I'd go out on a foggy morning, and the liquid fertilizer you mix up and spray on will actually stay wet there for hours. It'll sit there for hours, but what happens when you put foliar fertilizer onto a lawn or onto a plant? How long does it take the fertilizer to get into the leaves? It takes seconds. So it's straight into the leaves and starts working immediately. So with foliar fertilizers, you can actually get a result within. You can get a result. It'll be working within seconds, and you'll get a result that you can see within days. So whereas your solid fertilizer, it's going to take weeks to get a good result. So yellowing, and it's not a variety that yellows naturally. Fortified as you go through autumn, and then at that time when it's still nice and green, you might use a solid fertilizer because they're more economical and they're quick and easy. You might even use a little bit of lime if you've got acid soil, but do that mid-autumn. But right now, in an emergency situation and you've got to green up the lawn, say you're putting a house on the market, you need a nice green lawn, foliar feed is the fastest way to go. And you can get these ones that you just plug onto your hose and spray like that, and you're in business.
Perfect. Well, hopefully your lawn is going to be green in no time. Got another question here from Susan. So they say, I've bought a house in the Wimmera, never had a garden. What plants are strong and that I can't kill to get me started in the semi-arid Wimmera?
Well, generally speaking, your natives are great, but if you've got a bit of water, and you don't need a lot of water, roses are fantastic, and roses do particularly good out in that dry, like down here in Melbourne where we've got rain and fog going on all the time. We get all sorts of diseases and funguses in our roses, but up there, beautiful dry conditions, soil tends to be the right sort of soil for roses, and roses are great. But then on top of roses, you can do things like convolvulus. Convolvulus are really, really tough and they flower for months and months and months. Lavenders, rosemary, nandina, they're all sort of tried and true types of things. And then with your trees, if you want, your native trees, of course, are going to do really good there. But if things like a claret ash, a Jeffers red maple would be the right maple for you. Even ginkgo with a little bit of water through the summer would be great. So there's lots of really nice things that you can grow. And if you say you wanted a weeping tree, I would go for a weeping mulberry or a weeping pagoda, and that can give you a really gorgeous feature out in front of the house. And so weeping pagoda, weeping mulberry would be probably your best weeping trees, and roses are a great standby. And then for hedging, I reckon Tom Thumb, green rocket, or privet, boxleaf privet that is. So boxleaf privet, green rocket, or Tom Thumb are the hedges for you out in that sort of country. So hedges, roses, and one of the things one thing that's really good for borders and things like that is your carpet roses, and white carpet roses if you want to look sort of cool and classy, and pink carpet roses if you love a bit of colour, you know. So carpet roses, great for a border, and for your boxes, you've got your Tom Thumb, your green rocket, and your box leaf privet are all fabulous out in the Wimmera.
So many choices there to choose from borders to flowering trees to roses, lots of choices there. If you do go with any of them, we'd love to see some photos. If you could send that to our socials, let us know how you go establishing your first garden. Very exciting. We've got a question here from Tanya. So they have a weeping cherry and it doesn't really seem to flower much, and they're asking, do I trim my weeping cherry?
Weeping cherry. I wonder what colour it's meant to be, and how long have you had it in for? That's what I wonder. But a weeping cherry not flowering much, I would suspect it's perhaps not really healthy, not growing well, and what I'd be looking at where, like, there's really, what cherries love a nice bit of loose open soil. I always tell my customers to dig a really big hole for their cherries, and if a cherry was planted badly in really heavy hard soil and the roots couldn't really spread, this is the time of year where once they lose their leaves, you could dig them up, dig a great big hole, mix lots of potting mix and a bit of fertiliser into it, and replant your cherry back into the right sort of conditions. Generally, the reason when people have a weeping cherry that's not doing well, they dig a little hole and they've poked it in and it's got hard soil all around. Weeping cherries need loose soil. They like a open sunny spot. They need loose soil, lots of loose soil underneath, lots of loose soil all around. They need plenty of water and plenty of fertiliser in the summer, and they need to grow. And it's that new wood that once it gets more than 1 year old, that produces all the flowers. So what you really need is you need growth, and you need to look at why it's not growing. It can really only be a lack of sun, a lack of water, a lack of fertiliser, or not enough good loose soil around it.
So yeah, take a look at all of those options and see if any of them work for you, Tanya. They did mention that it's a pink weeping cherry, if that changes your answer at all, but I think if it's still the same advice, we can move on to the next question.
Yeah, sure, same advice, yeah.
Great, still the same advice there, Tanya. Then we get a question from Anne asking, I planted weeping cherry and flowering plum in December last year. They are looking very dull. How can I recover them?
They tend to look a bit dull at this time of year. What's going to happen is, and this is the great thing about your deciduous trees, is the next few weeks they're going to drop their leaves. Just let that happen. I do nothing with them now. Let them drop their leaves. And the great thing about your blossoming trees is that when springtime comes, it's like they're born again. And there's a whole fresh start. And what you'll get is you get your beautiful blossom. You'll get your and your lovely fresh new foliage, and to keep that fresh new foliage looking good through the year, plenty of water, plenty of fertiliser.
Awesome. All right, moving on to the next question from Boyd Roberts. Chris, could you suggest a flowering border/edging plant which will do well with low sun? I have a shady spot which things are struggling to grow.
Okay, so society garlic. And there's two sorts of society garlic. There's one with a blue-grey leaf, and then there's another one with a sort of a creamy stripe over a blue-grey leaf. And I like the one with the creamy stripe, but it's not for everybody. I like that one the best. But that seems to grow hot sun, full shade, grow anywhere, and it flowers for 5 or 6 months of the year. So that's one that'll take shade and flower for a long time. But another thing would be a thing that I really like is that there's all different types of ajuga. And ajuga are great. They're actually called, some people call them bugleweed, and the part that I like in their name is the word weed, because anything that's called a weed grows like crazy. And what you've got is, you say, my favourite ajuga is Burgundy Glow, and Burgundy Glow has a beautiful mix in the leaves that it has purple leaves, pink leaves, cream leaves. It has a whole mixture of colour in the foliage, and then beautiful purpley blue flowers, and that will grow in complete shade and give you colour all year round, because you've got colourful foliage and beautiful little flowers. The flowers don't come all year, but the leaves will be there all year and give you colour all year. And the only little note of caution is in extreme frost areas it'll suffer badly. But your variegated society garlic, it'll grow about that high in the leaf, and flowers and all will be about that high, and it's a great flowery border whether it's sun or shade.
Also, Boyd, if you are still looking for more options, we actually have a great article on our website that is the top 10 best plants for shade. If you just go to our website, we've got Chris's blog, and it was posted quite recently, or you can search up in the search function as well. If you are looking for other options, there you have plenty more plants to look at, and there are some border options in that article. So back to Mile, asking what plants are behind you right now, Chris? They are looking at having such plants in their backyard. If you just take a look behind you, Chris, in your background.
Yeah, I'm looking now, I can see on the screen there. And a note of caution with those really colourful ones are actually cordylines, but they're the indoor. If you're up in Queensland, they're outdoor cordylines, but down here in Melbourne, they're indoor cordylines. So the problem with those is that they're not going to be great to put outdoors in Melbourne unless you're like down by the beach in Brighton or Port Melbourne and you had a very sheltered sort of a garden. They're not the go. And then behind that, right behind my shoulder, actually that way there, over my shoulder you've got a Bangalow palm, and then you've got a camellia in flower, the lovely pink flowers, and then over that way there, you've got your what is that? That's Dracaena. It's a Dracaena, and that one in the sheltered spot will do okay. But they're mostly things that we're selling for indoor use, and not great for the garden. But what you'd be amazed if you come in, if you're after a bit of colour in the garden, and lots of people come in here and they're really looking for colour. The things to look for outdoor colour that's going to go through the winter here is coprosma. We'd have 5 different sorts of coprosma here: pinks, reds, purples. So coprosmas are really great. You've got flaxes and cordylines, and they come in yellows, pinks, reds, purples, all different colours. And then you've got your lauropetalums. Lauropetalums come in greens, purples and reds, and kind of pinky reds. And then another real favourite of mine is a kaleidoscope. And that's an abelia, and that's a beautiful sort of golds and greens, and as you go into winter, sort of oranges and reds get mixed into it. And then of course there's your old nandinas, and we've got all the different sorts of dwarf nandinas, and you've got sort of lots of red tonings and reds and oranges and that tonings in you, and they're all really. So although some of the ones behind me are not good for outdoors in Melbourne, they're ones. So summing that up, that's coprosma, flaxes and cordylines, nandinas, and kaleidoscope, and lauropetalums. And the lauropetalums, great source of colour, and they've got sort of the purple flowers with purple leaves with pink flowers. So lots and lots of colour there.
And if you're still looking for different options, or you want to have plants that are personalised to your backyard conditions, book in a free garden design with us. If you just navigate towards our homepage, services, then we have the free garden design, and then Chris is going to take a specific look at your garden and what plants work for you if you are still wanting other options. And then we are going to move on to now Susan's question. So they're saying, my couch/buffalo lawn is being taken over by weeds and plants that the birds drop on it. The weeds are winning. Oh, that is not good. How to stop them without using environmentally bad weed poisons, please?
Right. Okay. I've tackled that problem because there's stuff called weed and feed, and you put on it puts on a broadleaf weed killer, and that's the same stuff as they used in Vietnam as Agent Orange, or essentially the same stuff as Agent Orange. Or sort of a deviation of it, but essentially the same sort of product. And I don't really, and I mean, you just the smell of it can deform plants in the garden, and it's quite dangerous. But that's the easy way. The more difficult way, I think what I found is that if you fertilise your grass, and particularly as you go into spring, lift your mower up and let your grass grow longer, it tends to drown out the weeds. I've noticed that people who cut their grass really, really short and don't spray the weeds end up with the weeds seem to be able to spread out over flat grasses. But when you let the grass grow up a bit, the grass actually starts to swamp out the weeds. So I think that the number one way is to fertilise. It's hard to do much now, but the first thing would be lift up your mower, fertilise your lawn, get it growing, and cut it taller, and start to smother the weeds. And I actually reckon grass looks good when it's neatly cut, but it's fairly long. And whenever my lawn looks sort of beaten up and weedy, I tend to fertilise it and lift the mower. So that's a sort of a simple way. I mean, I have seen people, there's a little tool you can buy that has got like two little things like that, and you can crawl around on your lawn and kind of lever out the weeds. But I couldn't be bothered. I'd rather just, I'll tolerate some weeds, but I'll try and get the grass growing as healthy as I can, and the grass tends to be hard on the weeds.
Well, let's hope those weeds start losing now. All right, moving on to the next question from Anne. Chris, could you please advise one evergreen creeper for fence, if possible, with flowers? That area gets sun only during the afternoon time.
Right, actually, it's a funny thing. I was out doing a garden layout the other morning in Altona, and I love the white potato vine. And the white potato vine, terribly simple thing. It's evergreen. But what I love about it is and I mean, right now it's getting pretty cold. A lot of things have stopped flowering, and you know, right across the road from where I was working, I saw the best white potato vine I've ever seen, and it was really green and lush and beautiful, and it was absolutely dripping with beautiful white flowers. And actually, I'm going to put a little video up soon and put some photos on my website, but I haven't done that yet. But it was the best looking one I've ever seen. So coming to mind. And what's great about evergreen potato vines is that they love a bit of good soil, they love plenty of water, and they love plenty of fertiliser. And it's funny, I was saying that to the lady that I went in and knocked on her door and asked if I could video it, and then I was saying that to her, they love good conditions, they love this and love that. She said, well, that's funny. She said, I just got it growing in the gravel of the path. And she contradicted me a little bit, but what I found with the white potato vine is that I've seen it grow up 2 or 3 metres in one season. So, and that's a summer season, not a winter season, but it has, with plenty of water and fertiliser, it has enormous growth potential. So if you've got an ugly fence, an ugly shed, an ugly whatever, it needs a bit of wire or something to cling to. It's not one of those stick to the fence kind of climbers, but if you plant white potato vine, it's a beautiful, neat thing, and it's also great. Like if you put a trellis along the top of the fence, it loves running up to the top of the fence and going along a trellis. So it's a great, what I call fence topper, but evergreen. But the great feature is beautiful, simple white flowers, 365 days a year. So that's white potato vine.
The white potato vine did look incredible, and we are going to be posting about that soon. So go follow our socials if you do want a visual on what it looked like, because it had the most gorgeous white flowers. The next question for us here is from Reza. Chris, do we sell climbing roses?
We do, and what'll happen soon, at the moment, if you go on our website, you'll see quite a range of climbing roses, and as with all roses, they're the potted summer roses, and they're a little bit expensive. And if you just want 1 or 2, that's probably fine. But if you're sort of getting stuck in it and you need a few of them, what we've got is they haven't come in yet. It'll probably be early to mid, possibly late June. It depends on weather and how people go getting their tractors in and out of the mud and all that sort of stuff. But basically, there'll be a good range of climbing roses quite cheaply on the web as the bare root sort of keeps coming and into June.
Amazing. Next question is from Mrs. Mandeep asking, what are the best indoor plants that we can keep? That they can keep?
The plants that we've got that are really doing well in our house is we've got the mother-in-law's tongue, and we've got the one with the golden stripes up the side of its leaves, which I think is the prettiest, and that thrives on neglect, and we neglect it and it thrives. It's doing fabulously. And then we've got a Rafus palm. Now, Rafus palm, very classic looking thing, very classy looking thing, and we've got one that my partner took home, must have been 10 years ago, and it was a little scungy thing. It was virtually a throwaway. It wasn't even good enough to sell, and we took it home, and it's grown into the most beautiful thing. It's sort of up to my chin. It would be a good 5 foot and really bushy and lovely. And then the longest living one that I've ever had in the house was one of the larger, I think a Sensation Spatifilum. Nice, lovely big leaves, and would bless you with these beautiful white lily type flowers quite regularly.
Amazing. Now there's a question here from Barty. Or more a statement that they want to talk about an issue they have with their magnolia. So I just want to say for you, Barty, we'd love to hear about it. If you could provide as much detail as possible about what type of magnolia, what is your issue, and then Chris can answer that for you. So even if you have to take some time to type out a paragraph, that's fine. We're going to keep answering questions, and then we'll get to your question once you've put it up in the chat and we've finished up whatever we were talking about then. So here is a question from Cheryl. Saying they have an insect that is quickly demolishing their orchids and succulents. What's best to use to get rid of this insect?
I think there's one, it goes under a few different names, but Confidant is one of the names, and it can be a little bit hard. I don't think Bunnings sell it, but I think you can buy it at Mitre 10. And Confidant is a systemic spray that goes into, you spray it on the plants that are being affected, and then a bug that was either sucking or eating on that particular plant will die, and it works for perhaps 3 or 4 weeks. So it's selective, because a contact spray is no good, because you put the contact spray out there, and then in a few hours or a day or something it's all gone, and then the insects come back. But your systemic spray, and what's great about it is you don't even have to know the insect's name. Basically any insect that eats or sucks on that plant will be finished once you've sprayed it with something like Confidant.
Amazing. Now the next question here is a follow-up from Susan. So just a quick recap, that was the house in Wimmera, their garden that we were helping to establish. So in their new house, the previous owner filled their natural strip with rocks about 4 inches down. Oof. Is there any evergreen plants apart from cactus that grows in rocks?
A great thing would be Coprosma. Coprosma, and what you might need to do is part the rocks and fill in a bit of soil there and have the soil come up a little bit so that they're not being buried in rocks. But in hot country, I think like the Wimmera, rocks can be a bit of a disaster because they just radiate heat in the summer. But what you'll find is there's Coprosma, and in particular there's one that's an almost forgotten Coprosma called Kirkeye. And Kirkeye, you could plant Kirkeye in the rocks, and in a matter of 18 months or so, Kirkeye will completely cover the rocks with lovely sort of mounds of green. So you could Google Kirkeye and have a look at it, but if you wanted something, but that'd be mounds of green, and that would cool the rocks right down. But you can get Coprosmas in yellow, reds, kind of orangey colours, all sorts of golden tones and things like that, and you could plant lots of Coprosma there and really make it colourful and interesting, or you could go for the green Kirkeye and make it all green.
And Coprosmas are gorgeous. We actually posted a reel quite recently, if you do want to check out our Instagram or TikTok, just to get a visual on what some of those different colours look like. Now, we are running out of time, so we're only going to answer 2 more questions. But don't fret if you do have a question and it hasn't been answered. We do this every single Monday, so come with your questions every Monday at 12 o'clock, and we will answer them and give you solutions to all your gardening problems. So, second and last question is from Bhavya. Hi guys, would you recommend any type of jasmine to plant in east-facing front yard?
Interesting question. Probably the best, and I mean, I sell more of this jasmine than any other jasmine. I was trying to think of some more exciting answer, but there isn't. Is your Chinese star jasmine, and the reason why, I reckon your common jasmine, which I love the common jasmine, I love the pink buds and the white flowers, but your common jasmine only flowers for about 3 weeks, and it's a great plant, very vigorous, very easy to grow, but and it flowers at the end of winter, beginning of spring. So it flowers at a great time, but you can't beat Chinese star jasmine. I reckon you get up to 10 weeks in Melbourne of flowers, and it starts flowering maybe a month before Christmas and then flowers about 6 weeks after Christmas. So it's that time of year when you're out in the garden and you've got a heavenly fragrance, and it goes on and on and on. And that would love an east-facing position, and you need to put some wire or trellis or something for it to grow on, because it's not a clinger. It won't work itself out. You need something for it to grow on. So Chinese star jasmine would be my pick, even though it's not particularly exciting or unusual. It's the top performer.
Well, lucky last question is from Ecosystem Gardener, asking what's a tip for a beginner in guanines?
I don't even know what they are.
We'd
have to Google that.
In guanines, could you provide a little bit more context for that? We're not entirely sure what you're asking there. Was it a mistype by any chance? If not, I think we'll give you a couple moments to just give us a little bit more context. But yeah, just to reiterate, we do this every Monday.
Emma, could you Google that item for me, please?
Look it up.
Yeah.
We do these live.
Let's do one more question and then we'll...
All right, we'll do one more question. So once again from Susan, what do you think about introducing predators like praying mantis or ladybugs to keep pests down?
I think that's a great idea, and there's also predatory mites, and they seem to be very successful. Like people who are having trouble with the red spider, they use predatory mites commercially in nurseries. So I think in America you could buy beautiful big buckets of ladybugs. I haven't seen them for sale here, but you get thousands out of one bucket for a few bucks, and you couldn't put a better thing into your garden for getting rid of aphids. So I think it's the best thing ever. I guess it's just a matter of finding them so that you can get them in the garden. But the predatory mites are sold quite a bit here, and predatory mites are very, very handy because there's lots of people who suffer from red spider in their garden.
Amazing, very good advice. So yeah, we do this every Monday, but this isn't the only live that we do. We do also do more kind of topic or lecturer educational style lives that choose a particular topic, and then Chris will give a lecture about it. We do a Q&A section at the end. So if you are wanting, if you have any pressing questions, do come to those. We post on our socials when they are. But thank you everyone for coming down and giving us your questions. We hope that all of the advice is going to solve any problems you have. Thanks and goodbye.